Yo, it's We Talking About Sports back with a UFC 264 recap. I know you guys were watching it. We were in the chat. It's a fun night of fights. Had that big fight feel. Let's get it started, Ben. Lead us off.
Well, let's start from the top. First of all, where did you all watch the fights? Where were you all watching the fights? Let's start off there, so at least we know what the atmosphere was like when all this shit went down.
Shit, man, I was just chilling at home, so the suspense was really getting to me. Sometimes, when you're just there by yourself and you're just focused on the fight and with nothing else like to watch, like the suspense really gets to you. You start shaking a little bit. So I definitely was getting a little nervous, and that's because I didn't even have any dogs in the fight in UFC 264, especially with the Poirier-McGregor fight. I was just getting nervous just because of everything that was at stake, just thinking about it, Joe. So yeah, I was just there chilling by myself at the crib.
Justin?
I saw it at my house. Saw it with my family. It was a good fight. Pretty excited about it all weekend.
Obviously, Connor brings out the barbecue where everybody comes over, and the people who you usually don't talk to, you go and get the pay-per-view with. We were up in Houston, and we went to Nico's house, and I hadn't seen Nico in years, man. And he's a big McGregor fan, so we were there for a barbecue. It was pretty lit. But yeah, bro, let's start with the McGregor fight. So
Are we sure we wanted to start there?
Yeah, let's start there. We got to start there.
I wanted to go curtain jerker up.
No,
let's go McGregor.
The big talk. Let's do it.
Obviously, I'm not gonna lie. It was a different look walking into the fight from McGregor. It kind of seemed like back against the wall. You could see, and he had a very aggressive lead up. He had a very aggressive lead up to the fight. He was very aggressive with Dustin. It got pretty cringeworthy as far as I'm concerned. Some of the things that he was saying, but so the fight starts off and Connor opens up right away with the leg kicks. The thing that brought him to his demise in Poirier McGregor 2, the Poirier leg kicks that he was bitching about, that who the hell does calf kicks, and Connor comes out heavy with the leg kicks. And he landed a few, about 3 or 4 of them. So it was a big factor. I feel like for him going into the fight, it was something that I thought that he was going to try and catch Poirier by surprise with that aspect. And like I was telling Justin before we went on live, when Nate Diaz beat him at 170, he was firm. He was hard on that. He needed the rematch at 170 as well, because that's where he had lost. And I could see him losing by leg kicks and then going out there and saying, hey, look, anything you can do, I can do better. It can be done, whatever it may be. The first round started that way. Dustin gets a takedown in there. Or it wasn't even a takedown. They exchange. Dustin rocks him, wobbled him a bit because Conor McGregor insinuates grappling yet again in another fight. First one to grapple, first one to shoot's a pussy, says the guy that shoots and grapples first. Mm-hmm. What did you all think at that point of the fight when you saw McGregor pull guard into a guillotine? He went for broke and pulled guard into a guillotine.
First went into clinch before he
I was going to say it was when he went into clinch was when I was like, okay, this is already the beginning of the end. Because every time that he's done that in the past, it's incited the beginning of the end from the Nate Diaz fight, and every fight that he's lost since that point is whenever he stops striking and stops trying to stand up with the guy, which is what Conor McGregor is known for, is the highlight knockouts and all those highlight reels that's gotten everybody to fall in love with him, on top of his antics and his ego and all of that stuff, is striking. So once he starts to bail on that, you already know there's already doubt in him. And Ben, you touched on a lot of the stuff, being cringeworthy leading up to the fight, and that's exactly what I thought. Conor, he's never been, in my opinion, cringeworthy. Like, his shit talk has always been pretty good. I mean, that's what's
quotable before. Yeah, it was quotable before. Yeah, inspirational.
I mean, people still say, who the fuck are you, or whatever, with his accent, like, or who the fuck is that guy? And it's
cool saying that to another fighter, but when you say, "Oh, I'm gonna beat this guy and he's not gonna go home to his family,"
yeah, exactly.
Your wife's a hoe. She was in my DMs.
Like when he started doing the whole chanting about Jolie's the husband or Jolie's wife or whatever, like that was pretty cringeworthy, and all the other stuff that he was saying. I really do believe, like what a lot of people were saying leading up to the fight, that Conor, there's a sense of him just trying to I guess, make himself believe that there was going to be a different outcome that night. Because even in that pre-fight, when they show the fighters warming up and all of that stuff, and they're throwing their punches for the camera, or they're doing like their last minute like warm up on the mats.
Shadow boxing.
Conor, he looked a little like his eyes were just off in the distance, like his mind was somewhere else. Like I think he was really, really like still trying to convince himself at that point that he was going to go in there and do something. Because I mean, a lot of people said it, how much could change from fight 2 to fight 3, because I think we could all honestly throw fight 1 out of the books. Like that fight in 2014, was it? That doesn't even really count at this point because it was so long ago, and the fighters were at such a different stage in their fighting careers.
And that's a big point, Roland, is the evolution of both fighters from that first fight until now. You're seeing a guy in Dustin Poirier who's more well-rounded, and Conor has just been, the striker, the stand-up guy, and when he's not front running, then things get tough.
And it's the other thing too that and this is what happens. When you get to the point that Conor was at after he became the champ, he chose the route of getting the bag. He went and got the money against Floyd, while Dustin Poirier and everybody in the MMA game today stayed in the MMA game and got better. And that's the risk that Conor took, is he stepped away from the game and the game passed him up. And that's exactly what happened.
It was. Justin, your thoughts, Justin, as a McGregor fan?
Also a Diamond fan. Let's just put that out there.
Bigger McGregor fan.
Yeah, definitely bigger McGregor fan. This seemed very emotional from Conor this whole week. You can get from the presser. I thought this was the worst presser he's ever had. Like you said, nothing quotable, everything cringe, especially on the floor after the fight when he's making gun signs and telling the Poiriers he's going to kill them in their sleep. Very cringe. You didn't see any evolution from Conor from the time that they fought, like Roland mentioned before. He should have listened to himself. He said this. He said, I'm going to get in, get rich, and then get out. The problem is he forgot to get out. I think there's no hunger in him at this point, and he's still emotional about this. I mean, you can see how today he posted that video out of surgery talking about onward and upward. Poirier, don't be celebrating you didn't get this. And I got to say it for Poirier himself as well. It sucks for him the way this went down. You can tell there was no closure. This is not how he wanted to win. He wanted to finish Conor, and he doesn't get that. So that sucks as well. For me, I think when we get to that second round, I think Poirier is going to finish him at that second round. Everything was leading that way. You saw Conor at first run to get in the middle of the octagon to put the distance on Poirier, because that's where he's best, when he's fighting at a distance. Poirier was able to negate some of those kicks and get a little closer. Conor then has to get into the clinch. At that point, I knew the fight was going to change. They were able to exchange more shots where Poirier did get the better of him in the stand-up. And then Conor does shoot for that guillotine. Poirier, if you look at the video, he does use his toes to kind of climb up. But Conor as well, cheating by putting his fingers in the glove to do the up kicks.
And Justin, when you get a guillotine, you're not going to do it with the guy in half guard. Like, Conor should have wrapped his legs around Conor to have him in his guard. You know what I mean?
You're also not going to get it with your back against the wall like that. You need to position differently. But, that's not his bread and butter. It's never really been,
Why
and now
do
I
it?
can now I can say, now I can say that we've seen it because we talked about it last time on the podcast. Is he better at jiu-jitsu? Is he better? And I said, we don't know because he doesn't do it. Now we've seen it, and I don't think he's better. At least I got to see it to say it. I don't want to say something that I can't see because we're not that podcast. No hot takes here.
Justin, but some guys are Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts.
Oh yeah,
and some dudes are just awarded those black belts, bro. And like Conor, you can just tell with no submissions. I think he has maybe one submission win in his record, but he didn't have the jiu-jitsu, and that was known that he didn't have the jiu-jitsu. And one thing that was brought up was Dustin took him down briefly in the first fight, but Conor got right back up. Well, this time, Poirier did a lot better job because he had Conor bleeding out of his ear from the ground. He had him bleeding out of his nose. I mean, he was controlling Conor, and eventually, like you said, he lets him get up because according to Dustin, Conor was holding the gloves and pulling him down for the up kicks.
Mhm.
But like if Dustin Poirier is letting you up to get into a fist fight, it's because he knows he has you, bro. Everybody knows you're weaker on the ground. He could just belly flop on you. You know what I mean?
Did you have that 10-8?
Two judges scored it a 10-8. One judge scored it a 10-9 after the cards came out. Obviously, you didn't get to see a second round, but did I have it at 10-8? I think it was borderline. I'm not going to say it was for sure, because Dustin didn't have any submission attempts in or anything. And I don't think that he was that close to getting a stoppage with the ground and pound, but he was doing damage.
He was.
Like Conor, he usually starts off strong. The first round usually belongs to Conor. He was, I mean, he looked like he had been through half the fight already after that first round, bro. And that's minus the ankle busting. I'm just talking about his face. So
I thought his face was okay.
He
Today when he posted the video, he's pretty clean other than the ear with the elbow shot.
But the thing is, just like Dustin has him everywhere, and now we know
everywhere.
Even stand-up.
Stand-up.
The big thing was Conor has him in the stand-up, Roland. That was the big thing coming in. If there's one thing Conor has him in, it's the striking, the timing. Dustin again showed he could eat the
first
leg.
to contact, and he was first to contact most of the time when they were striking. That was the thing. He hit him with like a 3 or 4 piece at one point, and that's kind of what started the downfall for Conor.
Combos.
What I think is interesting is even with Dustin being on top and throwing those strikes, Conor actually had more strikes landed than Dustin did this fight.
Because you got to count those leg kicks.
Those little rabbit punches, and he hit him with some good leg kicks.
It's just when you look at the stats. And the significant strikes number was only 9 difference.
Earlier, Josh had a question: has there ever been a fourth fight? And there has been. Tim Sylvia and Andre Arlovski fought 4
Those guys
times.
were fighting every other month back in the day.
Yeah, but it was in ONE FC. It wasn't in the UFC. Arlovski had soccer kick KO'd him in one of them, so they ran it back because it was legal in ONE FC. So not in the UFC. There's never been a fourth one. And honestly, the break. Let's get to the breaking of the leg. So it comes out now. There's a video circulating that when he did that up kick, it hit Poirier's elbow, and you could see the just the movement in his leg from throwing the kick. Like, you're not going to throw your kick. You're not going to throw that leg if it's messed up. But you could see the gentleness in him placing it on the mat and then sliding it back to get in his stance. It clearly broke on his elbow. I know Poirier had alluded to maybe it being on one of the kicks that he had checked earlier, but it comes out it was that like teep kick to the gut that he tried doing, and Poirier's guard, his elbow was kind of down towards his body, and it clipped the top of his foot. Yep. So that ended up causing that, but it leaves the opening to, there wasn't a definitive winner because he couldn't keep going due to his ankle breaking. I think we all kind of saw what was going to happen, Roland, and I know that's where you're going to go to. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the only people that would believe otherwise are Conor fans, and Conor fans that believe his narrative and all the stuff that he was saying before and after the fight. Because like you just said, where the fight was going and where the 2 judges had it as a 10-8, you don't recover from that too many times. So, I'm not here for
Roland, that. But for his coach, even his head coach, Kavanaugh, to come out and say, the fight, it was going good. It was going as expected. It was going as planned. It just the leg happened to break, but in the second round, we were going to take over. Like, what was going as planned? He was bleeding from his fucking ear, yo.
It's like what we were talking about before we came on the podcast. It's he's surrounded by a bunch of guys that are gonna paint the fairy tale for him and say that there's rainbows outside and that there's roses everywhere. There's a bunch of yes men, and I think Kavanaugh's not going to say something to not just completely calling Kavanaugh out because I think he's a reputable guy in the sport, but I don't think he's going to say anything to get Conor's confidence down even worse or down even more than it might be right now. So maybe that's what he's doing right now, trying to feed into it a little bit. But I do think at some point you have to accept that what you're doing might not be working for you, for Conor, because there's this whole thing of him being halfway in and halfway out, because he did already make the bag, right? Like he made however much he made against Floyd Mayweather. He already made the bag with his whiskey.
180 million just this past year.
when he hadn't even stepped in the ring. So and then he makes 20 million just to start off against Dustin Poirier this last fight. So I mean he's got it all. He lives life on a yacht pretty much, going from beach to beach. It's just hard to think that he's ever going to be able to get back into that mode and that grind.
It's not the same Conor, and that's the biggest thing that I think people are failing to like realize or like believe to be true, because it's not the same guy. Like there's a different Conor right after that Floyd fight. Like it's a complete different Conor. And like in that second fight, the game had passed him up. He hadn't fought somebody with leg kicks. He hadn't fought somebody with leg kicks, and it got him out of there quick. Look, he's beat Cowboy Cerrone. He's beat Cowboy Cerrone, who's lost 6 straight. I'm not saying he's done fighting. I don't think that he's done fighting, because something this drastic, I think that he needs to come back from. And just as strong-minded as the guy is, he needs to prove to himself that he can still compete after that horrific thing. And there's been plenty of guys that have, busted their legs. Anderson Silva, Weidman, a lot of these guys who have fought afterwards. So I do think Conor is going to fight again, but he's done fighting for straps, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. He's done fighting for straps for a while.
Well, so let me ask you this question, guys. Dana and Poirier said Poirier will be fighting Oliveira next for the strap. And then there will be a 4th fight between Conor and Poirier.
Conor
shouldn't get this fight with Poirier if Poirier wins the strap.
I should rephrase myself. He's not done fighting for straps. He's done winning straps.
Yeah,
he's done winning straps.
Dana also said that there's gonna be a 4th fight, but he doesn't know when. He can't guarantee when that next fight's gonna happen. He's like, yeah, the 4th fight's gonna happen because he didn't like the way that the ankle broke, but he's not gonna guarantee when that's gonna happen because Poirier is probably gonna win the strap, and there's other guys that are more deserving at this point than Conor. So it's going to be for a while.
He's
definitely. To be honest, I think 155, the division for the most part, has passed up McGregor at this point.
The moment he stepped away to fight Floyd, that's the risk that he took, is having the game pass him up. And
risk versus reward. That bag was big, Roland. I guess
honestly,
it was worth
at this,
well, you can't blame him. I mean, you can't blame him. That's the thing.
But we can blame him, Roland, because why not just go and box at this point? If the money's there, fighting all these other guys, why not? You said get rich and get out. Why not go do what Floyd's doing and fight a Paul brother in a boxing match where you don't got to worry about kicks, where you don't got to worry about takedowns?
Dude, because he's still 32. That's a crazy thing about all of this. That's the crazy thing about the Conor McGregor story.
Like this,
and he's still kind of the king of MMA at this point.
When it comes to the money, no one's saying that. No one's saying that.
When it comes to the pay-per-view buys, he's still king of MMA. Who's doing bigger numbers?
He's still a needle mover, of course.
No, he's king of pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Don't say king of MMA. Don't say king of MMA. Say king of
pay-per-view. Correct me. You're right.
He's still a needle mover for sure. But like Ben said, he's done fighting for straps right now. He's done winning straps for the foreseeable future. It's just like I said, and the reason why he doesn't walk away and box is because he's still 32. It's like you're still pretty much in your prime. John Jones was still dominating at this point in his career, with or without steroids, if you want to throw that in there. But I mean, Conor, he squandered his prime for the bag. I mean, that's the crazy thing about his whole story. But it is what it is. He made that decision.
Joey brings up a good opponent in there. Dos Anjos, that's a good opponent. Tony Ferguson, another good opponent. Nate Diaz, another good opponent. Somebody who can't put him out. Guys that aren't finishers, bro.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good point. I think Dos Anjos is a good next opponent for Conor McGregor. I don't know if you guys saw that he went up and started something with him even before this fight, because Dos Anjos was there as a replacement, and
they were scheduled to fight back in the day, and Dos Anjos had to pull out
for broken foot, which now Conor has.
For a broken foot, which Conor called a bruise.
But my thing is, I don't want Conor getting a title fight off of one victory. Like, I think he needs to put together a few, man. He can't just get it off of one.
He shouldn't even get another title shot unless he has a string of victories.
He's got the Fiesta Texas Fast Pass, Roland, or whoever's got that. Conor's got the
that's
the card.
Not valid here.
You win one fight and you're automatically there just because you're the king of pay-per-view.
No, man.
Now we have seen more main events that aren't title fights. We've seen the 5-round main events that are just, big money fights. And Conor is a guy who could take that route easily, but he's just always he's always going to be marketable.
Yeah.
But it's just more believable with the gold around his waste, and you know Dana's going to give him every opportunity. You know that he is while he has him.
That's his cash cow.
It's still there. Yeah.
He should just stop, bro. He should stop, and he should just go box these Logan brothers where he won't get hurt and just make money, bro, because it's let people forget about the crazy thing is Dustin Poirier fought 3 phases of Conor. He fought young, hungry Conor on the come up that didn't have shit. He fought Conor after the Floyd fight, super nice Conor. I'm donating $500K to Dustin Poirier's charity, Conor, hugging Dustin Poirier's nice competition. And now he fought Conor that calls his wife's name, tells him he's not going home to his family. And Dustin Poirier only seemed to lose his composure the first time they fought when they were younger in the game. These past 2 times, I think Poirier leading up has handled himself pretty well. Hasn't let Conor get in his head.
Yeah, a lot more mature guys at a better, point in his career at this point. He's more secure at this point. He's not going to let that stuff get to him. That was another thing that I was very impressed with Poirier, was just his composure throughout the whole process. He said it from the beginning that he wasn't gonna let that little shit talk get to him this go around, and it didn't matter like what version of Conor showed up in front of him. Because again, like we said, it was just Conor trying to make himself believe what was going to happen was going to be different.
Well,
I think some of the talk did get to Poirier when you see the
because he crossed the line.
When you see the presser, when he gets the hot sauce and he starts throwing it off the table, that bothered Poirier.
Yeah.
He even tried kicking him too. Rick brings up a good point. Conor needs to take the Ronda route. Yeah, Ponle, get out of the game. That's the route.
WWE's waiting for him.
The other thing is his losses, though. I mean, not to his credit, but just to give him a little bit of bail. Have been to the best of the best. I mean, he lost to Khabib. He's lost to Poirier twice. Who else did he lose to? Diaz. So, I mean, he's been fighting the best of the best. Floyd, yeah. So
he needs been, but he's been getting finished. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs to go step down. Fight a guy like Dos. I'm not saying he's a step down as a bad thing, because Dos Anjos is still very reputable at this point in his career. But he needs to fight a guy like Dos Anjos and see where he's at.
Especially coming back from a leg break like that. But so anything else?
No, but USA, they're down. They're down by 5 going into the 4th quarter against Australia.
We're gonna get the bronze and
bad luck
all over.
Patty Mills is going on.
Oh well, the craziest thing about the whole thing, besides Conor saying that he was gonna kill Poirier and his wife in their sleep, was that Joe Rogan just sat down on the floor and interviewed Conor with a broken foot.
What do y'all think about giving him an interview? What do y'all think about giving him an interview? Obviously, he's gold on the mic. You got to give him the mic, but it was a pretty bad look, and the UFC is gonna loop that up and play it for part 4, and it's going to be a part of the buildup. But that was
He's the only guy that gets to get interviewed with a broken foot on the floor, laying there with a broken foot. That's crazy. And everybody else is stretched out of there.
Joe Rogan just to slide in there and post up next to the cage with the mic there, like what? Justin, should he have been interviewed?
That's only in the UFC, dude. Only in the UFC.
Man. Conor is not just an MMA fighter; he's an entertainer. And
that's
he
all
has to entertain. So
at this point,
I think he's one of the best combat entertainers of all time.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's like WWE, but he's actually fighting for sure.
But he's not one of the best fighters of all time. He's one of the best.
Didn't say that.
Of all time. No, I know. I'm just saying that's where I think that we need to draw the line, and like for the people that listen to us as well, I think that we all need to realize that at this point, Conor is just the best entertainer at the game. He's not even. I wouldn't even say how can you say he's elite when he doesn't have an all-around game? He's not an elite fighter. He's not an elite fighter anymore.
And his striking is not elite anymore either.
It's just a perfect combination of skill, talk and swagger and timing. It's everything put together with Conor's come up.
And in fighting, I guess we've heard that half of it is mental, and Conor had some of those guys out of there prior to even getting into the octagon, man.
Yep,
he just had the lights. He had the lights too bright for some of these guys. We saw with Eddie Alvarez. It was the biggest fight Eddie Alvarez had been in, and we had never seen him look that bad. We had never seen Eddie Alvarez look that bad. I mean, he was getting his head beat off the cage.
I think done are the days where Conor beats you before the fight.
Right. Done are those days. I think now people, or at least UFC fighters, his peers, are able to distinguish that it's just talk. It's just talk because he hasn't produced on his promises. I mean, he was talking about Dustin leaving on the stretcher and Dustin being the first guy to shoot, all of these things, and he was the one leaving on the stretcher. You know, he was the one shooting first. It's to me, it's like it's just all talk. It's just that dog just barking there. But I mean, it sounds good and it sounds believable.
To address the comments, did somebody say Connor was a co-main? I don't think we said that here.
No, I don't think he's a co-main.
No, I think Josh. I
from.
think Josh. No. I think Josh is posing the question of like, what's Connor's next fight? Like, if it's not for a belt, like, do you put him under somebody as a co-main, or do you still have him headline a card? I think that's what Josh was asking.
No, hey, Teddy Atlas. We got to talk about Teddy Atlas. He was on there talking about, Dustin Poirier won because of the geography. He won because of the geography. And he was just trying to say that he got it into his world or like his location on the map, whatever. But like Teddy Atlas shouldn't have been there. I did kind of appreciate Max Kellerman and Stephen A on the pre-show. I'm not gonna lie.
Kellerman, yes. Stephen A, no.
I didn't think that I didn't think that they were bad. I didn't think that
Stephen A didn't say anything out of line. He was asking questions though, and I thought I gave even more credit to like Bisping. I thought Bisping did a good job of not like. Because Stephen A was asking some pretty, I guess, questions for the casual fans. That's why Stephen A and Kellerman are there, because this is such a big fight, and they want more people to watch and be like, hey, there's Stephen A. I know who that guy is, instead of Dominic Cruz. Who the hell is that guy? But I will, like I said, I'm giving Bisping a lot of credit because he was acknowledging what Stephen A was saying and like being very explanatory and just playing off of Stephen A.
Stephen A got checked from last time. You know, he did get checked.
That's why he didn't say anything out of line.
Right.
That's why he was posing questions and stuff like that. So
I didn't mind him at all. I thought that he was pretty good. But so we'll just talk about next opponent. So Poirier
the second best
will be matched up against Oliveira. I think we're all there. And what do we all see for McGregor next? What's McGregor's next fight?
Well, I believe it'll be Poirier, just like they said it would be.
Okay, Roland.
Shoot, man. I think he's probably gonna fight Nate Diaz.
All right, I'll go Tony Ferguson. I think they'll fight Ferguson.
I think that fight makes the most sense, man.
And I think it's pretty hittable for him because Tony's very hittable.
He's already peppered up too,
and he doesn't really keep people.
He's at that Cerrone point also.
Yeah, he goes into the fight already peppered up.
He becomes hittable.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think he's gonna lose 6 straight. I don't think Ferguson will lose 6 straight. At least I hope.
I'm saying as far as it's going to be.
Well, let's go to the co-main event. Let's drop down to the co-main event. A fight that, man, I was pretty convinced that Wonder Boy wasn't gonna get taken down and was gonna win this fight.
Though.
All of us were wrong.
Yeah, we were all wrong, and it was 19-19 going into that last round. It was one round apiece.
It was a
29-28, and that last round, he even caught Dorino Burns with that spinning head kick and stumbled him a bit, but it seemed like the takedowns were automatic for Gilbert Burns. He wasn't really having to work too hard for the takedowns. He got one in every single round.
Yeah, and he was beating him at striking too. That was the other thing that was most impressive for me. He was closing the distance. He was showing his explosiveness when he wasn't getting takedowns. He had control of the octagon by having Stephen A up against having Stephen Thompson up against the gate or the fence or whatever. He was controlling the whole fight. He beat him at every facet of the game. I thought myself, like my personal scorecard, as we all have when we're going and watching these fights, I had it 2-0. I had Stephen Thompson winning the second round up until the very end when Gilbert Burns scored that takedown and got some damage done. I thought Gilbert Burns did a very good job. He didn't gas himself trying to take Stephen Thompson down when he wasn't successful. He stayed pretty calm, and he controlled him up against the fence until he did get that takedown. But yeah, Gilbert Burns impressed me a lot throughout this fight. I too had Stephen Thompson. I thought he was going to be able to control the distance with his jab and the way that he always is switching his stance and whatnot. He did get a couple of good spinning kicks, as Ben said, even to the body. I thought he got Burns pretty good a couple of times. But yeah, man, Burns showed that he's still at the top of the food chain when it comes to the welterweight division, and that him going up against Usman and inflicting damage on Usman wasn't a fluke. I think if he changes a couple of things, he might be able to go the distance, because he got put out in that fight, right?
He got finished.
Yeah, I think he might be able to go to the distance and create a little bit more damage on Usman if he gets another chance. I know that for that division, they're already talking about Usman and Colby for sometime in the fall. So I don't know where that leaves Burns. But as far as Thompson's concerned, I think he's going to turn into more like of a gatekeeper kind of a guy. I think he's done fighting. I think this is kind of his last hurrah in terms of going for the belt. He had built himself up pretty well. But I just think his time passed him. He came into the UFC a little late in his career. I think he came in at 32 years old was when he made his debut. He's 38 now. But even with that said, he's still done pretty well for himself in the UFC. So great, entertaining fight, but Burns dominated.
Justin?
Yeah, I agree with Roland 100% on this, except I think it was 2-0 going into the third. I also think it's going to be very hard for Wonderboy to come back and get a streak and get another title shot. I think this was it for him. If he wins, he gets it. He didn't do it. And I think it put to bed the what if him versus Usman, because I feel like for the most part Burns is kind of a carbon copy of Usman's style, and this for me puts it to bed. I don't need to see that fight at this point. I think Usman would have finished him if anything at this point.
Yeah, I think in 5 rounds Usman would have finished him. I don't think Burns would have finished Wonderboy within 5 rounds, but I think Usman would for sure. It does kind of suck that it puts that Wonderboy versus Usman stuff to bed, because it now seems like Colby is going to get the next title shot. And it leaves up what's next for Gilbert Burns, who was coming off a title loss. Obviously, we knew that one win wasn't going to get him a title shot again right away, because there was a couple guys in line. Do you think that he fights? I mean, he's not going to fight Nate Diaz.
Well, his callouts were Edwards,
Masvidal.
Nate, and Masvidal.
Yeah, so I think Edwards makes the most sense. And just the winner then gets the winner then gets the Colby and Usman winner. I think that just makes the most sense, right?
Man, I don't know, because
that makes
Edwards
sense too.
really need to fight more to not get a title shot? I
Who?
think he's kind of deserved at this point.
Yeah, but no, Leon does, because nobody knows who he is still.
Yeah, not a household name.
And Masvidal, that's just not a big enough fight for Masvidal, if we're being honest. I don't think that Gilbert Burns is that big of a fight for Masvidal. And I don't think
Masvidal's a little too far low in the rankings right now too. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's the big money fight in that weight division. He's the biggest name in that division, so it doesn't matter where he is in the rankings. I think Masvidal could have his pick of whoever he wants to fight in the top of the division besides Usman.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So I don't really have anything much more. Very underwhelming performance by Wonderboy, but yeah,
dominating from Burns.
I do think it's going to be Burns versus Leon Edwards on next.
I like that. I like that fight for both those guys.
Josh says Burns is a harder fight for Usman than Colby is.
I agree.
He got rid of Burns earlier than he got rid of Colby. I don't know. We'll see. I'm really down to see Colby get his ass whooped again, so I'm kind of with it. Let's move to the next fight. We're just going to go over the main card, and then we'll get out of here. The next fight was the women's fight, or was it Greg Hardy?
Hardy and Tuivasa.
Hardy and Tuivasa. So I know.
No, the next fight was the women's, wasn't it?
Was it?
Well,
no,
I think it was
Hardy and Tuivasa. I forgot we're going top down instead of.
So Hardy and Tuivasa. I know on here, for the most part, were we on Tuivasa?
Yes,
I was on Hardy. I took him. Yeah.
What did you think, Roland? He obviously stumbled.
That's not the way that I thought he was going to go down. He lost in a firefight. He got in a firefight, which I thought was what was going to lead to his victory. But he stumbled Tuivasa, and I think that's what kind of. I think he thought Tuivasa was more hurt than he really was. Because when he saw Tuivasa, I think it was more of a little bit of a slip than it was like Hardy knocking him out and him not having his wits about him or whatever. But as soon as Hardy saw that, he blitzed, and that was the end of it, man. Tuivasa, he's quick with the hands. He's quick with the hands because he got Hardy nice twice, and then he got him on the come down to finish him off. But he hit him on the temple one time, and then he came across and cracked him in the face, and that was it. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect him to lose that way.
Yeah, it happened pretty quick, and Justin it seemed like a part of the glove caught Hardy's eye because his eye closed up pretty damn quick.
Like a golf ball coming out of his eye.
Yeah, that left was pretty flush on his eye, but it seemed like the glove really, bothered the eye socket or whatever.
Yeah, I was talking to Roland before the podcast, and I said I wasn't too sure if Hardy was completely knocked out, like it was all his faculties. It seemed more like he was protecting that eye.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Conor was still taking shots with a fucking broken ankle, bro. When he fell after that broken ankle, Poirier got a couple of shots in while Conor was laying on his back. So Hardy needs to show a little more heart. I don't know. Is Hardy going to be in the UFC much longer? I think
he has a few fight wins. Why wouldn't he be early as his second loss?
I don't know how much longer, but I don't think there's no place for him in the UFC. I think you can still find fights for him.
Herb Dean is trash. Let's get to that fight next. Let's get to O'Malley. We'll leave the chick fight for the end. Let's get to O'Malley against the Italian camarada. And it sucks that I can't even.
Chris Moutinho.
Chris Moutinho, the orange-haired, was it orange or green? Green-haired guy comes in there and just forward. I guess the game plan definitely had to be constant pressure. Keep O'Malley moving backwards. You had Camarada over there thinking he was Michael Strahan after a sack. O'Malley was hitting his inner hot sauce in the octagon. I mean, he was really trying to get on that top 10, like we said, with that walk-off KO. But this kid wouldn't go away, man. He wouldn't go away. He drops him at the end of the first. I think that if you're Herb Dean, if there's ever a time to call it, it's after he gets dropped there in the first and he's been taking all those shots. But the dude endures, it's a 15-minute fight. The dude endures 14 minutes and 33 seconds, and then you want to call it Herb Dean? The last 27 seconds, he hadn't even been dropped. I agree. Herb Dean's terrible. I thought Herb Dean should have stopped it way earlier. He should have stopped it in the first round if he was going to stop it due to him being damaged and worrying about the fighter.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with fighters and guys in sports. They get messed up in the head because they've had a mistake and they just can't correct it and they get the yips. That's exactly what Herb Dean has, man. He has the yips. He's made a few mistakes as a referee in the past, and now he doesn't know what the right move is. He's been criticized for letting fights go too long. He's been criticized for the whole Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler thing. He's been criticized for stopping fights too early a couple of times now, ever since those occurrences happened a couple of years ago. So Herb Dean used to be one of the most respected referees in all of MMA, and rightfully so. He is a really, really good referee for the most part. But just like I said, he has the yips, man. He doesn't know what to do now when it comes to those discretional calls that you have to make. In terms of, is a guy really just out of it? Do I need to call the fight, take him out? Yeah, Herb Dean, man, I don't know. And I think as a referee, I think you really do have to consider if he should be sticking around the UFC, because he's already had a couple of questionable calls, and not only does it affect fighters' records, but it affects their wallets at the end of the day too.
Although Camarada ended up getting paid pretty nicely, he got his show and he got fight of the night, so $75K.
Nice.
He ended up coming out with close to $100K for him. Taking the fight on a week's notice. Yeah, good for him, for real. Because he was just an ordinary dude prior to getting this call up. And I know we were bashing on the call up. I mean, he seemed to be game. He didn't really hurt O'Malley. He never really was a threat, I believe, offensively. But against lower level guys, I do think that maybe he can have a contract in the UFC, and I do expect them to keep him on board after putting up that type of a fight and bringing home a bonus.
And he helped keep O'Malley on the card, so that's a big thing.
I'm sure he got like a 2 or 3 fight deal.
Yeah, he should be getting. What did y'all think of O'Malley though? What did y'all think of the crossovers and the balling inside of the
well, he knew what he was going to be able to do against this guy. And he showed that he's just, a couple classes above him. So didn't really think too much of it. But, his striking is pretty good. I mean, I don't know if elite's the right word. You guys might be more versed than me to call it elite, but his striking's up there. He's a quick son of a gun, and he's lengthy, so he's a problem at that weight class because there's not too many guys as tall as him.
Justin, I just feel like this points back to the lack of competition that they're feeding him. Like if you can be doing this in the octagon, like, I mean, people are gonna like it, but how serious are you gonna be taking? Like, if you're not doing this against top 10 guys, you're not doing this against Chito, buddy. I think he definitely needs to step up the competition next fight. Like, there's no more excuses. It's got to be a guy 15 to 10. I'm not even saying below 10, but 15 to 10. Let's get a ranked opponent. Yeah,
Justin and I were talking about O'Malley. You know, he has quite the following for not being a ranked fighter, but he finds himself on pay-per-view. It's crazy. It's a little backwards at this point, but I do think they're going to start giving him some harder tests, and they have to if they really want to build this guy up to something real.
Justin?
Yeah, he had a big call out. Number 3, Rob Font, or as he said it in the octagon, Fob Ront. I think that's a big time call out. I don't see necessarily Rob Font taking that. That's a big step down for him, and he's at number 3. It's a lot to risk to take that kind of fight. But I'm glad at least he's calling somebody out that's in the top 10 so we can see if he's legitimate, because the only time he's ever fought in the top 15 was with Chito Vera, who's no longer in the top 15 for some reason. We saw how that went down.
And did he move up, or is he not ranked at all?
He's out of the top 15 at the moment.
I'd rather see O'Malley fight somebody like Cody Garbrandt. Don't call out Rob Font. Call out Cody Garbrandt. Somebody who isn't Cody Garbrandt coming off a loss recently?
Yeah. He lost to Rob Font.
Yeah, so not Rob Font. You know, Rob Font has everything to lose taking that fight against O'Malley. I mean, I'm not saying that he would lose the fight, but Rob Font's one fight away from a title. Cody Garbrandt's on the come up, and they've had back and forth prior. So I don't see why that wouldn't be the fight.
How does Patty Mills become all world when he puts on an Australia jersey? I don't understand.
Coach Pop ain't holding him back.
Dude,
that seems to be the consensus for USA right now.
He's giving KD buckets right now, bro. Like I don't get it.
The game has passed up Coach Pop, and we've been saying it. And if Team USA doesn't even medal, watch Team USA not even medal.
I just think it proves that Tim Duncan was the truth.
For sure. Tim Duncan was the system. Tim Duncan was the system, Roland.
Just like Brady was the system for Belichick.
I think so.
They all have their golden tickets. They all have their golden tickets.
But Patty Mills, crazy. I don't get it.
So what would you all like to see next for O'Malley? Let's just play matchmaking and we'll leave it at that.
I don't know a specific guy, but I just want to see him fight against a dude with a number across on the ticker. I just want to see a dude with a number in front of his name. Ranked matchup.
I would like to see like a Dominic Cruz or Merab Dashvili or a Rafael Sensao.
Didn't he call out Dominic Cruz like a couple of months ago? Didn't he say that that would be a fight that would interest him? I could have sworn.
Yeah, but I mean, Dominic Cruz doesn't want to fight somebody that isn't ranked. Dominic Cruz is, that's
the problem with the top 10. They don't want to fight down. They want to fight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's another guy. Dominic Cruz likes to talk about Conor needing to be realistic. I mean, Dominic Cruz is another guy that. I mean, he's not there anymore. So
I agree with Josh. If we're going to give him that far of a step up, if we're going to let him go right into the top 5, top 6, I think if he just fights Ricky Simone, I think that'd be a good test. I think with the proper amount of time in camp, Ricky Simone couldn't make weight due to the short notice. But if they book it and they have the proper amount of camp, I think that that's a good test for him, Ricky Simone and Sean O'Malley.
Maybe one of them gets into the top 15 at that point because neither one would be in the top 15.
Yeah. So the women's fight, we'll close off with this. I know Ron was talking about a dude rolling around on the floor. Did you all see that fight on the prelims? Ryan Hall against, I don't know Kamara's name.
I didn't see it.
That's my boy, Ryan Hall.
What did you think, Justin? I watched it as well. And he was just rolling and rolling and rolling until he finally got ground and pounded to sleep.
Yeah, he was rolling, but with no success. Topuria was able to get out. That's normally what Ryan Hall does, and he finds, the leg locks. He was on like a 8-fight win streak up until then, but so was, I think, Topuria. Once Topuria was able to get him in a ground and pound position, it was lights out for Ryan Hall.
it was pretty brutal the way that he did put him out. It was first round, wasn't it, or was it second round?
Second.
Okay, so yeah, that dude seems to be for real. Taipur, what was his name? Taipur
Tapuri or something around those.
Taipuri, and he is undefeated as well. So yeah, but the Kutsakanya and Aldana fight, the women's fight. I picked Kutsakaya here on the show last week, but man, it was one of those fights where I actually felt sorry for the fighter, bro. Like, she was getting manhandled. She looked like they didn't belong in the same octagon. She looked like she should have been talking about Aldana the way Hardy was talking about Lewis. Like, yo, don't be picking on me. You know, we have no business fighting each other. It was bad.
It's off, Josh.
I was completely wrong on that fight. So, and as Otani gets eliminated by Juan Soto in the home run derby first round.
That's because
Second,
Soto
he went to 2 tie-offs, and he beat him in the second tie-off.
He had the least amount of home runs coming into the home run derby. He had like 11 coming into the.
And he was the last
derby.
edition as well.
Yep.
But that's
well, he was the
crazy.
8 seed. Yeah, he was the 8
The two
seed.
favorites, Otani and Gallo, are out in the first round.
Well, just to talk about the Aldana fight, for the most part, I know we jokingly say, you know, these chick fights, we tend to use that as our bathroom break because, you know, there's not a lot of action that happens on her. But, man, did she bring the heat? Aldana's looked good. Everything but the Holly Holm fight has looked good for her. But, man, she beat the out of her.
Yeah,
she put it on.
But she did miss weight as well. We should highlight she missed weight.
She did. She was, what, 6 pounds over?
I thought it was like 4.5, 5 pounds.
4.5
over. That's a pretty big amount.
They don't have a lot of. Well, yeah, she missed weight, but I mean, weight. I don't know. Weight classes in UFC have always been kind of a little bit of a problem just because of the big gap in between. But what I was gonna say is more women are coming with the heat, and putting each other out, and they're becoming more entertaining fights. They're not just like, because I'm not gonna say that they were bathroom breaks. Sometimes they would be boring breaks because they're a little bit more. Boring fights, because they're a little bit more wrestling oriented, or there may be point fights. Like a lot of people are karate, or a lot of women are karate oriented, and they're just kickboxing a lot of the time. So, but people women are starting to get together and create some pretty exciting fights, and it's not just the women at the top of the food chain. So, yeah.
I think USA is done with Australia.
Yeah,
I don't know if we medal at this point.
USA is down 88-83 right now.
Isn't this just exhibition matches?
Yeah, they're exhibition matches.
Yeah, but you got starters playing.
It's a bad look. And the other thing is, it's not like they're going out there lackadaisical. They don't look good. Like they're getting outplayed.
There's no chemistry on the team right now. You can just tell.
No. These guys don't play well together.
They need Booker. They need Booker to get their Middleton. They need a champion, bro. They need a champion to lead them.
Well, they're showing up after the finals.
Those two guys is enough juice to insert to win.
Yeah.
Right now they have Lillard, Beal, Draymond Green, Tatum, and Durant closing out.
Y'all swear Tatum's the truth, though. Y'all swear Tatum's the answer.
He's pretty good.
If they had Jaylen Brown, they'd be winning.
Well,
anyway, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday we're gonna do an NBA preview show. We'll have Ron on. And I can be on as well. I don't know, Roland or Justin.
It's you, Roland, and Ron.
Okay, so it'll be Ron, Roland, and I will be going on Wednesday, an hour prior to tip-off. That sounds good, guys. Enough time. We'll talk about the game spread. We'll talk about the over/under. We'll get into player props. And, I mean, it's a game that we think the Bucks need to have. 2-1 series, the second game in Milwaukee. The Bucks handled them game 3 by 20 points. So Wednesday, an hour prior to tip-off, we'll be on live. Roland, what you got to add?
No, I just want to say thanks to everybody who entered the contest this past week. I saw a lot of people chiming in on Twitter.
Did anybody get it?
No, nobody got it. I think
Wally
a couple people got close. Yeah, Wally predicted all of the correct outcomes except for
the finish.
The finish, yeah, exactly, on the McGregor and Poirier fight. He called
it submission.
He has submission.
By sub.
So I think if anybody would have just said TKO, they would have won, because it was technically TKO doctor stoppage, but you don't have to go like that in depth. But yeah, he just said submission, and he missed it that way. But thanks to everybody that entered. That was really fun.
Hopefully we get something going with BetKing again. I know they're still our sponsor when you use the code WTBS to sign up. So
Yeah, we got another two title UFC card coming up next month here in Houston. Nunez against Pena, isn't it?
And
And
Gagne and
Lewis.
Lewis.
And Lewis and
will be
Gagne.
the
So,
headliners. Pena and Amanda will be co-main.
yeah. So, but
And then
that's it now. We'll see everybody Wednesday for the pregame show.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Deuces.
Later, guys.